Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you all along today to this special presentation sponsored by APM Scotland branch. We're delighted to have Peter Taylor with us to share his knowledge and experience of this interesting topic, project management coaching, a topic we believe can benefit experienced PMs and those new to the profession. Coaching has the capability to improve current competencies, communications and negotiating skills, and to enhance problem-solving capabilities and make for better relationships with project stakeholders. I'm sure most of you know that Peter is a widely experienced speaker, consultant, trainer and coach, and has also written numerous books, including the best-selling The Lazy Project Manager. He's been responsible for some of the largest PMOs in the world, including Siemens, IBM and Kronos. He's delivered keynote speeches all over the globe, and last year he was awarded the PMO Alliance PMO Influencer of the Year award. He's also delivered over 450 lectures and presentations around the world in over 25 countries. There will be an opportunity to submit your questions through the Q&A for the session following the presentation, which is being recorded. Without further ado, I'll hand over to Peter.
All right, thank you, Shirley. Appreciate the introduction there. So, yeah, we're going to explore this benefits of project management coaching. I think it's a really great topic, and I was delighted to be asked if I would talk about this because it's something I do. I've received coaching and I provide coaching, and you're going to hear a bit later on from someone who's gone through that process. So seeing it from the point of view of the person who has experienced coaching and what they felt about it and what value they got from it. We're also going to be interactive. So what you can see there is we're going to be using Mentimeter. And the code that you do need to use, because I kind of refreshed the slides a little bit just before the presentation. So you can see the code there is 53776384. Menti is very simple. If you haven't used it, all you have to do is go pick up your mobile device and type in menti.com, and it will ask you if you want to join a presentation, a Menti presentation. You just key that unique code in, 53776384, and you can join in when we start the polls and the interactions, and it's going to be really important for me because it allows me to understand where you are in your thoughts and what your experience has been. And I found this a fabulous tool in recent times of actually gaining interaction, some insights. Now, what's great about it is that you kind of get or we're seeing in real time the kind of responses, and the graphics are really neat. And it doesn't store any of your information or anything like that. It literally only takes your votes and your comments as we go through. We'll have a couple of practice sessions shortly to get going on this one. All right, so let's get on with the topic. I am delighted to be here, as I said. You've heard all the stuff that I do. I'm not going to go into all of that, but I think what I will say is that my focus has always been the people side of project management, and projects are about people. I will always maintain that. And yes, we need the mechanics, we need the process, we need the methods or the framework, if you like, we need all of the kind of discipline for sure. But the reality is that projects are about people. And I have evolved over the many years that I've been in the world of project management through some support and guidance from a number of key people. I've experienced coaching. I've experienced mentorship as well. And we talk about what is the kind of defined difference between those two shortly. And I've gained great value from it. And in recent years, I've obviously switched around and started providing coaching and mentoring to some people. But I think at the heart of everything, and if I go back to the Lazy Project Manager, which was published back in 2009, really that was all about the soft skills, the people side of project management. And that kind of links on to another thing. So I'm also the executive advisor of an organization called Perflow. And Perflow is all about project team dynamics and the interaction and the rapid interaction of individuals as they join a project team in order to become truly efficient and effective. And we typically go through that kind of forming, storming, norming, performing cycle. And Perflow is some technology that I'm a key part of. So you can see, it's about people. It really is about people. this is interesting, and this kind of kicks off really about the kind of the difference between coaching and mentoring. And I think it's just, typically where we would always start in that. Very simply, and I like this graphic. The mentoring is about advising, and coaching is about asking, about challenging. And it's not so easy to differentiate between the two all the time. And when you hear from Bina, who's going to talk to you a bit later on about her kind of experience in working with me over the last year, that she'll say that we move between coaching and mentoring. Sometimes I'm asking, sometimes I'm challenging, sometimes I'm questioning in that way. Other times I'm offering some advice, some guidance, some suggestions. But the main difference is that while a coach will challenge you and ask questions to get kind of a different perspective, a mentor will use their knowledge or their experience to suggest solutions, and the two can be combined. Absolutely, it's really a matter of when you consider whether you'd like to be involved in the coaching experience, exactly where you'd like that line drawn. Are you looking for pure coaching, which is often the case if you're looking for high level leadership development, or actually you're looking to nurture and support someone's early to medium level growth, if you like. John Whitmore in '92 wrote that one of the seminal books on coaching in the business context, and he describes coaching as, and I do like this, is unlocking a person's potential to maximize their performance at work. And he also said helping them learn rather than teaching them. And I guess that's kind of, if you think about it, and I reflected on this is kind of the difference as you move through the educational years, isn't it? I mean, when my children were younger, it was all about being taught stuff, learning things, stuff by rote, being explained things. As they move through post-school into college, and then college onto universities, the teaching method completely changed into a more coaching approach of challenging, setting tasks, setting projects often, so that people will become self-learning in many ways. The benefits of coaching are kind of many, and this is according to the Institute of Coaching. What they're saying is 80% of people who receive coaching report increased self-confidence, which is quite a significant thing, obviously. They also said that over 70% benefit from improved work performance, improved relationships, and have kind of more effective communication skills. And quite significantly, of course, because it's not a super expensive thing, but nor is it a cheap investment. 86% of companies report that they recouped their investment on coaching, and more than that, actually. And for project managers, there was a study, this was done by Darren Delsher, called Progress Through People, a study of projects as if people mattered. For project managers, the study showed that coaching practice can provide principles, skills, and tools which put more focus on people rather than just the task. And this really is a kind of key priority, I would say, for project managers. Now, we're going to start with the Menti. Now, this is just to warm up. So as I said, you just go to menti.com. You use the code 53776384. And as a warm up here, before we get on to the real questions, let's put your names in. So Michelle, Andy, Rob, Troy. This is good. Excellent. I'm just going to look at me. We have, 113 people already? That's good. All right. Keep the names coming in. Katie, Fiona, Martin, David. Oh, they're moving around fast. I'm trying to keep up now. Bilal, Gareth, Agnes. Welcome. Keep them coming in. I'd like as many people as possible. It's like all these things. I mean, the more people who join in, the more the value of the output when we actually look at some of the questions and polls, etc. So please don't be afraid. Brilliant. I'm going to give it a few more seconds. So one of the neat things about Menti, if you haven't used it before, is it's got colourful and it's kind of real time as well. But you also get a nice output at the end of the presentation, and in fact, after the event, you're all going to be, all the people who attended and registered for this will receive a PDF version of the slides. I know that's always popular questions. Do we get slides? Yes, you do. But you'll also get them with all of the Menti graphics in high definition as well. So it's pretty neat from that. All right. Okay. I'm going to count down now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You can keep coming in because I've got another question here. Where are you? Whereabouts in the world are you right now? So I'm actually, I live in Sandhurst in Berkshire. It's near Reading. It's about 40 miles west of London. Yateley, somebody's in Yateley. You're just down the road from me. Excellent. In fact, I'm going to Yateley straight after that. And we moved from Yateley to Mauritius. Wow. We're very global. Germany. Yeah, we won't talk about Germany. Not looking forward to next Tuesday in the football, I must admit. Okay, Cambridge, Cheshire, Yorkshire, Nottingham, Edinburgh. It's a good spread, actually. It's a really good spread. Hebden Bridge, Weymouth, Woking. And there's someone else not too far away. Not too far away at all. All right, keep those coming in as well. It's good to know. I think we kind of warmed up now. We've got the idea. So we're going to move now into a real question in the next few seconds. And I'm going to start asking you some questions around coaching. And the first one. What is your personal experience of coaching? I just want to get a snapshot of where you are. If you've never experienced it, or if the first person said no. I coach others. Excellent. Okay. Tried it, loved it. Very good. You can see, like I said, if you've not seen Menti, this is just neat presentational stuff here, isn't it? So 40% say they coach others. Fascinating. Been interesting to get some insights from some of these people about a bit later on in the Q&A. Tried it, wasn't a fan. Oh, that didn't work for someone. That's interesting as well. Maybe interestingly, the person who tried it and it weren't a fan. I mean, it'd be great if you could maybe put it in chat and to let us know, what the reason was. Was it just you didn't get on with the person, you just didn't, he didn't gel with you, it just didn't work, or what? Okay. So quite a few people who coach others. Quite a few people have never experienced it, which doesn't really surprise it. And well, about a quarter of you of actually saying that you tried it and you loved it and you got value from that. So that's good. All right, thank you for that. So really, kind of asking the people who have not experienced it. So maybe the people who haven't coached or haven't experienced coaching or whatever. What's your current feeling on this one? Be interesting to see what you feel now, and maybe what you feel at the end of this session. So seems like people are pretty open to it. There's a strong representation of people saying yes at the moment. People saying they're not sure, which is fine. Great to have a kind of an open mind around these things. For people are just saying no, they don't feel like they are there, and I don't know. Maybe that's the person who tried it. It wasn't a love. I'm sure would say no. Maybe if you feel you're at a left position in your career where you don't need it, then you might say no as well. Okay, but that's interesting. We'll come back to that a bit later on. So, coaching for project managers. Let me talk about my own experience at this point, because when I joined, to be honest, I didn't join project management. I suddenly found myself in project management, if I'm truly honest. But what I became many years ago was I moved into the world of consulting through software organizations. And kind of from there, I progressed into helping deliver projects. And eventually I was called a project manager. And that really became my career for the last 25 years. But in the early days, it wasn't. I started life in manufacturing. I started life in stock control and management, and that kind of moved into kind of the progress chasing of activities across the manufacturing organization. And it wasn't until I joined a company, a smaller company actually, than I'd experienced in the past, and they were deploying some software technology to help run a system. It was what's known as a MRP system back in those days, and some people might remember what that stands for. But really, it was an underlying systems, pre-enterprise level, really. And it was just in that organisation that I began to kind of see people managing projects, and we had an external consultant who used to come in and help us deploy various elements of this technology, and I kind of liked what they did, and I realized they had a better car than me and so forth, and eventually I threw myself into this consulting world and eventually became a project manager. Now, but during this process, and I was completely unaware of it really at the time, but when I joined my first consultancy software organization, there was a very wise head of consulting or managing consultant or whatever. I can't remember his title, if I'm actually honest, but he was in charge effectively of the consultants. And he was really, really good at kind of guiding myself and the other young project managers and consultants in the direction we used to go. And his best piece of advice he ever gave me was no surprises. If you come to me, or if I'm surprised by something that you're involved in, then you just aren't in control, or you haven't communicated something, or you haven't told me about something. But if it's not that you can't have problems, but if you need to come to me with them, and then it won't be a surprise. So surprises are a bad thing as far as he's concerned. And I look back now and I realized that, what this guy was doing, he was somewhere between coaching and mentoring to support me. And later on in life, I could certainly recognize that I had another mentor who I worked for in the early part of my career, and who I'm still friends with to this day. And in fact, I'm currently doing a little bit of work with that person as well. And that was brilliant, because that person was kind of giving me the advice I needed. And then about 12, 13 years ago, I actually engaged through my organization I was working for. I actually engaged with a coach to kind of help me make that next step forward in my career. And that was a really interesting experience, because, as I said, the difference really was it wasn't like, I don't know what to do, what should I do? And they tell me, they would challenge back at me. It was all about questions and challenges, etc. And it really made me think. It really made me try and grapple with the issue properly, and give me some clarity of how to approach it. And I got great value from that. To that end, as was mentioned on the introduction, I have helped build and lead some very significant PMOs for organizations. And we're talking here of hundreds of project managers, global in nature, thousands of projects every year. And I've always tried to build in an element of both coaching and mentoring for project managers. Particularly when a new project manager joining the organization, they kind of get a mentor buddy to help them to answer all those questions you're going to have when you start somewhere new. I don't know where this information is. I'm not quite sure what I should be doing. What is the right person to talk to? That kind of thing. And then for the project managers who you can kind of see potential or have an opportunity, or you feel that they need a career push, then engaging with a coaching service. And in each case, we used an external organization to provide this, because it was very objective. They had a basic understanding of the company, of the process, of the methods, of the structure, of the projects, that kind of thing. But really, it was all about that kind of one-to-one individual experience. So we used it, as I said, elements of this as in onboarding new hires. We used experienced project managers to provide coaching to others. And I think that's really, really important. I always argue that when you have an organization that has levels of project manager, maybe project manager, senior project manager, project director, or program director, or whatever levels you've got, as you move towards those higher levels, an absolute element of their responsibility is not just, if you like, doing the job, but it is actually providing value back to their own community in the form of coaching and mentoring, giving back, if you like. This is very much kind of a peer-to-peer service. Also, the PMO itself, we've always provided sort of direct coaching and mentoring support. And we've also, been involved in doing a very similar thing for project sponsors. And that's a whole new topic, and we don't have time to go into it. But, the PMO has been used in the past to help coach project sponsors in becoming really, really good project sponsors. And that's a big challenge. So, as I said, you can kind of have internal coaches inside the organization, or you can have external coaches as well. And I've used both. It's typically, how would you go about it? I mean, the original stuff, first time I did it, I actually went through, HR department, and we identified a coaching organization and interviewed them and spoke to them and, piloted it and eventually engaged with them. Maybe, your learning and development teams have some sort of kind of coaching program as well, or some process you can go through to help develop coaches as well, because it's not just, you can't just say someone is a coach. you do actually have to help them become a coach. That's really important. And coaches, as I said, well, you're kind of made available to kind of rising stars, if you like, rising talent, current leaders that are kind of extending their management responsibility, perhaps senior executives and so forth. All right, so we come to kind of the value creation part of this. And I'm going to go back to my own personal experience before I introduce Bina to you, the audience, and she will talk about her own personal experience. But if we think about the kind of the process you're trying, what you're trying to do is create value in yourself. You know, this coaching process is about bringing you on as an individual, as a person, as an employee, as a manager, as a leader, as a project manager. You know, wherever it is you want that kind of growth to be. And for me, it was very much around I was kind of trying to step up. I wanted to step up in my career. So I've been a project manager, I've been a senior project manager, but the scale of the projects I got involved were increasingly larger and more complex, and the world was moving towards global projects, moving towards virtual projects, moving towards very remote resources who I never met, for example. You know, all those challenges I'm sure you all recognize and could speak to some great length. But then there kind of came this kind of leap of like, well, now I'm going to be in charge of a kind of a group of project managers. You know, this was the early days of PMO. It wasn't the first involvement wasn't a PMO. We didn't call it a PMO. I can look back and say, yes, it had certainly elements of a PMO, but this effectively was a community of practice, if you like, a centre of excellence, if you like, of project managers across the whole of Europe. And suddenly I realised that I didn't realise I couldn't do the job, but I realised I probably need some help to do the job. And what I didn't want to do was that classic kind of promotion to point of failure, which, you know, unfortunately does happen out there. And it wasn't such an obvious transition to move from project manager, senior project manager, etc., into leading a group of project managers. That's something I kind of recognised, and my manager recognised it as well. It's a little like when I moved from being a consultant to becoming a project manager. There was a kind of clear transitional step, a behavioural difference there, and this was the same at this point in time. So I looked at that point about how I could get some help, and I reached out, and I kind of had, I think, 3 points of support. One was a point of support with my manager, who was effectively my mentor as well. The second point was that we sourced an external coach to work with me for a period of time. In fact, originally it was for the first 6 months, which extended a little bit longer. I think we wrapped up about 9 months. But it was very useful input during that period of time. So I was having bi-weekly conversations with my coach during that period of time to kind of, part of it is obviously to set the scene and to talk about what's going on, and eventually it's almost like, you know, almost like to a degree a kind of counselling approach. Eventually you get into the detail, then you get into the nitty gritty, you get to the heart of what's going on and what the challenges are. But on top of that, I was also blessed with having a bit of a mixture, kind of a coach mentor, if you like, in someone else in the project management world who was already kind of doing what I was doing, had already set up the kind of the first PMO. And when I reached out to them, they were very happy again to offer up the occasional element of support. So I was very blessed. I had all of this going on, and if you like, the mentoring was great in a sense that it was just there when I needed it. You know, I need advice, I need guidance, I need pointing in the right direction. In the moment, there we go. And the coaching was I'll be honest, was harder to start with, because it felt like, well, I was being challenged, I was being questioned, I was being pushed through the coach. And actually, it's one of those experiences that you can realise afterwards is really good. And again, I'll be very interested to see what Bina's thoughts on this are. It's a bit like, and I can talk very relevant about this, because I've just written another book called AI and the Project Manager, which is going to be out in October. And I'm going through that. You know, I love researching, I love writing, I love the whole publishing and promotional process. The bit I really hate is I'm going through a moment, which is the copy editing phase. Because this is where someone comes back and go, I know what you've just said there, but is that right? Is there a better way of saying it? And they are questioning and challenging. And I find that really difficult It's a period of time that I try and get over as quickly as possible. It's painful every single time, but I know it produces better results at the end. I know it's going to be a better book because of this. When I wrote Lazy Project Manager, I was very lucky because the publishing company that wanted to promote this had no idea what project management was. And they just literally published the book as I wrote, almost. I mean, they tidied it up a little bit and they made up a couple of minor changes, but they had no idea what project management was. And for that, I'm truly grateful, because I don't think any other publishing house would allow me to write the Lazy Project Manager with dinosaurs and Monty Python and stuff like that. But when I wrote my second book for a different publishing company, it was a brutal editing process I had to go through, which I hadn't experienced before. And I was very, very grumpy about it, if you like. But I know now, I mean, the book is still out there. It is still popular. It is still selling. And I know it's predominantly because of that tough editing process I went through, that process of someone objectively challenging many things I said, many ways I structured it, many ways the language I used, etc. And for that, I see that as trying to true value creation. You know, for that, it was bringing benefit to me, and the output, the outcome, if you like, was so much better. And at that point, Bina, I think it'd be great if you could just turn on your camera and introduce yourself to the audience.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope you can all see me and hear me okay.
Yeah, I can. Off you go. So just a background, Bina has been working with me for nearly a year now. So, you know, that explains the, the haggard look maybe, or what, I don't know, not at all. You're looking fantastic. So,
no, thank you.
Tell the listeners all about it.
Yeah, well, I'm Bina. I'm based near Leeds in West Yorkshire, and I saw that quite a few of you are around this area as well. So, to explain my experience, I think I need to tell you a bit of a story, really. A year ago, I moved back to the UK after living in the Netherlands for 11 years. So for 11 years, I was working away as a project manager and lecturing in project management. And I returned to the UK at what could be the worst possible time. You know, we got COVID going on. And I felt very lost. I felt like I had to start all over again, relaunch my career. And I thought I could get back into being an associate trainer for Prince 2, which is what I did before. But it just was not happening. And, you know, I kind of regretted leaving my job in Holland and then thinking, what do I do now? So I felt very lost, very uncertain, lost in confidence, needed direction. And, you know, also, having not lived in the UK for a long time, I felt like I was an unknown entity, and you know, I had to sort of start from scratch. So it was a very kind of difficult time. So I started reaching out, joining webinars and things, and I got to know Peter from one of the groups where there was a whole day event with lots of speakers. And you know, I listened to Peter, I listened to others, and I liked his style. So we connected on LinkedIn and whatever. And then I found out that Peter was doing some coaching. So I thought, okay, that sounds good. So I'm going to actually go on to what did Peter actually do. So we set up a series of appointments, and it was quite structured at the beginning, which was good because I think I needed structure, I needed focus. So we went through something called a growth model, which is looking at growth, reality, options, the way forward, for instance. And he asked me a lot of questions, which I had to ask myself. You know, what were my strengths? What were my weaknesses? What areas did I want to go into? So I was thinking, okay, do I continue trying to be a trainer? Do I learn new things? Do I start creating my own courses? You know, what are the options actually? And for each option, I had to think about timescales, you know, like 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. And then also think about, you know, why do I want to do that? You know, if I was going to develop a course, why did I want to do it? How easy would it be to do? What are the critical success factors? What are the barriers to success? What are the next steps and timescales? So it was really kind of, you know, not just having an idea, but exploring it. So that was very useful for me because it made me think about other things. So I hadn't thought about that. And now I think, yeah, it makes sense. But because Peter prompted me to do this, it was really helpful. And I would update it as we went along because things did change. New things came in, some things didn't happen. And it was focusing on also, what am I going to keep doing? Am I going to be educating? Am I going to try something different? But also prioritize. So I found my priorities kept changing as well. So the growth model that Peter used really helped me explore my ideas and what I should do next. And also, SMART goals. What am I hoping to achieve by when? So that makes a lot of sense now, but at the time I had to really delve into what I thought was important to me. So we made a kind of a 12-month plan. Of course, some things did change as expected. But the drive was still there. I still had the framework and, of course, the support from Peter, which helped me carry on. And also describing what success looks like. I think that was important as well. It's not something I had thought out before. So that structure really helped me plan what I was going to do. And, during our sessions, Peter would ask questions, give suggestions, give examples, and, suggest things that I hadn't thought about before. Like, well, for instance, some of the suggestions were, promote yourself by writing posts, which I started to do, blogs and whatever. Get a photo made. I had my own website made because I was trying to promote my associate trainer status again, and look at that option. I also started applying for jobs as well. So really, what I thought was going to be limited, the limited avenue I was going to follow, actually broadened, and there were other possibilities. Peter also introduced me to people as well, so that was helpful, and I found that my network grew quite a bit. If I talk about, so that's really the kind of process we went through, and what I found working with Peter was that I really liked his style of communication. It was very relaxing, he was very approachable, and you probably picked that up in his presentation just now. I respected his knowledge and saw him as a trustworthy, good person. I think that's important because, you're kind of sharing your personal goals and everything else that's going on with somebody. You want to feel like, they accept and understand what you're going through. I found Peter a really good listener and very easy to talk to. And, in fact, I saw Peter as a friend because we'd joke about things as well. It wasn't just about serious stuff, And he helped me look at things from a different perspective, a different angle. And that was good because sometimes you can have tunnel vision and only see things one way. So he would ask questions or ask you to, suggest something that you delve deeper into. Peter always seemed genuinely interested in helping me. He was motivational. He was encouraging. He made me feel good about myself and my ability to make things happen. And that was quite important to me, especially, the circumstances of being back in the country where I felt like I didn't know where I was going. I'd lost confidence. Nobody knew me, and gradually that turned around and I felt accountable. If I was set tasks, for example, or looking to explore things, I felt accountable that, the next time I saw Peter, I would have to make sure it made sense that I had something to offer, otherwise it's kind of going in one ear, going out the other, and that wouldn't be good for me at all anyway. So I think that connection has been very, very helpful. And if I talk about the outcome of the coaching, I began to build my network. Peter helped me gain confidence, and I felt like I did have valuable things to offer, and that there were possibilities, and that I could relaunch my career again, because effectively that's what I was doing. And I celebrated my gains with Peter, which I did have. For instance, I'm currently managing two projects for two different universities. I've self-trained and achieved 2 accreditations and trainer status as well for another accreditation. I actually turned a job down, and I have a new job starting in August. So I think, that just shows that over time my confidence grew through the coaching. Also, I had the opportunity to contribute to a page in Peter's book called The Projectless Manager, which is something I've never done before. So, all these things kind of helped to reestablish my project management status, ability, confidence, whatever you want to call it. And I think I don't know what I would have done without Peter's coaching, actually, because it was a very difficult situation. But I really I'm pleased that I went down this road, and I'm pleased that I got to know Peter. So yeah, what else can I say?
I think that's pretty good. For me, it was a very enjoyable experience for me as well. I would have to say, and I look forward to our conversations. It was always exciting with Bina because something always happened in the last month that's quite exciting. I think one of the points that we found, the entire process was remote because of the situation anyway, but we found that whilst we started off like this, camera to camera for the first session, because we wanted to get to know each other, we've certainly after that we dropped cameras because I just think people are more relaxed. It allows you to walk around your room, your office, or whatever. It allows you to think, get papers, and get a drink, and I think it's a lot more. It's not like sitting on the psychiatrist's chair or anything like that. It really is. And for me, it was great to see the progress that Bina has made, the successes she's had. And my responsibility was just every now and then, because we really did. We were often a combination, as you can guess, it was a combination between coaching and mentoring that was going on. But for me, it was, what is that one thing I can say to her or challenge her with each session to go, oh, she goes, well, I'll have to think about that. Because that really is my fundamental job. I go, well, that's brilliant. I'm glad you've invested all that time in developing skills, etc. But how are you going to get yourself out in the market? How are you going to sell? And that was the kind of thing. So, thank you for sharing that, Ben. I really appreciate it.
That's okay. And hopefully we'll be able to meet and have a coffee or something. That would be good. Thank you.
That's what we're planning. All right. So so we carry on. Susan Madston she has an APM publication actually. It's called Coaching in the Project Environment. And she stated that some of the characteristics of a good coach in a project environment are the person has to be a good listener, a good observer. They need to be focused on your needs. They ask insightful questions. They kind of serve as a self-reflecting mirror. They have a genuine interest in helping you. They build in instant rapport, and we definitely had that with Bina. Emotionally intelligent, patient. They have the experience working in a changing environment. I think that's really important. I think experience for me is a high priority. If you're talking about coaching in the project world, that you need someone who understands the project world. And of course, it goes without saying that, and I appreciate Bina coming on talking about the things, but, all conversations are confidential. What goes on in the coaching session stays in the coaching session and stays between the two individuals. If we think about the benefits of coaching for project managers, I think it's, these are the kind of top 10, I would say, top 10 benefits. This is something you are thinking about, and quite a few of you said you were thinking about it. It's all about you. It's a very personal thing, a very personal approach to learning and growing. And it needs to be adapted to your requirements and personality. And I think that's one of the things is, if you're thinking about working with a coach, then you need to, again, I know you made this kind of comment about my communication style and my experience, etc. You do need to find a coach that's going to work for you. Not all coaches are going to work. You need to find someone you have that relationship, you have that rapport with. You want to get the most from the experience, I think, is the key here. It's also about being just in time. Sitting down regularly with a coach, and when I engage with a coachee out there, we will agree a cycle of meetings. There's usually a kind of more in-depth one to start to get the kind of background, the information, talk about the objectives and so forth, and then after that it becomes a regular cycle. Again, with Bina as an example and a couple of other people, it's never been rigid. If there's a period of time coming up when nothing is going to happen, then enforcing a cycle of, well, we meet every third Monday of a month isn't going to work. So you need a degree of flexibility. It's possible that maybe next month or the month after there's a lot going on and you want to meet and talk every couple of weeks as opposed to every month. You need that kind of flexibility. It's about dealing with real and present issues that you, as someone who's actually going through the coaching experience, are yourself facing. And that in a project world, it's going to be relevant to where you are. Where can you get the most clarity, most support? What challenges have you got coming up? I think is really important. So it's all going to be about just in time. Always remember this one from school: good, better, best. Never let it rest till the good is better and the better best. I mean, this is the journey you're trying to go on here. It can help you become a better coach yourself in some ways. And I think that's a great thing. I'd love it that, being in a year or so's time, that you might consider coaching other people. And I say that to all the people I work with. You've experienced the process, you've experienced the experience, you've experienced the value, etc. Well, why not give back? Now you understand that. You better understand how things work. You better understand how you work. You better understand how other people work and how it can be applied to the whole kind of project management world and activities. It's not just coaching, as we said, and I certainly, in my experience, I've never done a pure coaching delivery because it's always drifted into a degree of mentor. It's varied according to people I work with, but when you work with someone sort of like me, I have a huge network. I have a fair amount of experience. I have lots of connections. I have lots of experiences of things I've done that have worked and haven't done. There's going to be this kind of occasional drifting into a degree of mentoring, and I think that is absolutely fine as long as that you have that agreement with the person who you're working with that it's going to be predominantly coaching or predominantly mentoring, or kind of we're flex according to need, etc. And make sure that's okay. I think it's when it's appropriate, it's definitely okay to do that. As I said, the coach side of you will always be challenging, and I don't think I've ever done a pure mentoring session. There's always, as I said, there's got to be some kind of challenge or awkward question or big ask, or have you thought about doing this, that kind of thing, because that's the part of it that you start to self evaluate and challenge yourself as well. So it's all about improving and developing and becoming better and inspiring as well. I think is an important part of it. It is a safe space, absolutely. The relationship you have is a private one. It is, as I said, in all the ones I've done. I've only ever done virtual coaching in kind of recent years, because that works. It kind of creates that connection. It gives freedom at either end of how you relax, behave, move around, sit, whatever it is. You're not locked eye to eye or anything like that, or no uncomfortable moments. But there's also that trust of the fact that this will not be repeated. This is a conversation between you and me. Anything that's said stays in this unless there is any permission to share it at all. And it is somewhere where you can say whatever you want to say. And anything from sensible to stupid, it doesn't matter, crazy or bizarre or just very, very normal. It doesn't matter. You're operating in this safe space that allows a number of things to be explored. And they don't all work. They don't all deliver. They don't all add value. They don't all go somewhere. But still, that conversation can be had. It's about building personal self-awareness, conscious knowledge of your own character, how your feelings, motives, desire. We've all got insight into ourselves, of course, but sometimes, again, the kind of objective person, the coach, can actually draw out something that you may not have recognized or challenge you in a certain area. I love this picture. I've got a picture of my own cat sitting next to the TV as a small cat, and in the back, on the screen is a giant lion. And I don't know if that's kind of a self-awareness or reflection going on there for that cat. But it is about that. Of what is your potential here? What is the possible? Where can this go? It's got to be cost effective, and we saw some stats at the beginning. I talked about those. About 80%, 86% of organisations felt they got value back from investing that. Now, if you're an organisation, this isn't necessarily the cheapest thing to do, but organisations have reasonable budgets for this, and if they see value in it, return on investment, that's a great thing. If you do it individually, again, you've got to, that's a big decision to make, that you're willing to invest that amount of money and that amount of time as well. But it is cost effective. It is about gaining value, and that's why both sides of the relationship need to push all the time to really get that true cost effectiveness. it offers, I think, efficient use of your time. These are very focused sessions. I run hour sessions. They're pretty full. They're pretty packed. There is some work to do in between occasionally. That's the nature of it. But in essence, you're focusing and channeling this kind of activity into a short period of time, and I think that does really offer up a very efficient use of time, and the outcome is of value. It encourages kind of innovation in your own personal thought. It draws you or guides you. I was going to say maneuver, that's wrong, but it guides you. It opens you up to your ideas. A mentor might say something like, well, have you thought about this? And Bina talked about, the writing and blogging. My challenge to her was, well, why not? Well, I do that. I started small, so why don't you do that? You've just been involved in contributing to that book, for example. You wrote that, so why could you not do more? There's that, but then there's the other side of it, is the kind of realization that you yourself can innovate, can create. And Bina's been on a great journey and has been very successful at the end of that. And a lot of that was down to how can she evolve and innovate her own personal and work life in that process. And really, it's encouraging you. It's highly motivational. People who get involved in the coaching experience, really do fit this quote. I think you didn't come this far to only come this far. No, you've come this far to keep going. That's what you're trying to do here. And so that kind of coaching process is a way to support you, very much like I talked about my own experience. When I consciously engaged a coach, it's because I wanted to be successful at the next step in my career, and I wanted to be ready for whatever else came after that. And that was really the argument and the value for that period of investment. I didn't come this far to only come this far. All right, we're going to go back to Menti. You've heard from me, you've heard from Bina. We've shared some stuff. There's some good things you can read out there from APM. There's a Susan Maston book, and there's a couple of other things we talk about. So I need you to give me your view now. What are your feelings now? Would you now consider engaging a personal coach? Do you think that will provide value to you? So what do you think now? Yes, no, not sure, still unknown? Waiting for the results to come in. Don't be shy, share with me. Have we got anything there? I'm not seeing any votes coming in for some reason. I'm not quite sure why. Let me go back and reset that. What can we see now? There we go. Not sure what was going on there. So yeah, let's look at that. All right. So yes, it's a high percentage, yes. I think it's a slight increase from where we were, as you can see. There's still the no, that's fine. And there's still quite a few people that are not sure. The purpose of this session really, I thought, was to just open your minds to it and to think about it. As I said, the key really is about finding the right person. So, wherever you are in your career, would you consider becoming a personal coach for others? Would you consider giving back that way? Yeah, possibly one day. Yes. This is all very positive. I'm liking this. Okay, no, fine. A couple of people know. Some people are not comfortable with that. Some people don't. You aren't in that right space as far as they're concerned. They're not ready to do that, or they think they've got the kind of character to do it, perhaps possibly. But I honestly think that most people have in some way, and maybe not in a kind of formalized commercial full-time coaching manner, but as part of contributing back to your own project community. So again, it's just on the positive side, the yeses, the possibilities, the one days. It's just overwhelming that you might consider that, and that's brilliant, and I really do appreciate that. All right. And at that point, we're going to get to the Q&A side of things. So I'm happy to take any questions. Maybe if you've got a question for Bina, maybe Bina will be happy to come back. But let's see what you've got. We've got 10 minutes before we wrap things up. So can I ask out there what questions we might have? It's all horribly quiet at this point in time.
Ruth's asking, are there any specific qualifications that would help to become a project management coach, Peter?
Qualifications. I mean, for me, it's all about personality and experience. I don't have any formal qualifications in being a coach. I have experience coaching. And that has no doubt has provided some value to me in what I do. Absolutely, because I've worked with others, and therefore I found my own way of replicating what they do. Well, I don't have any formal qualifications, so I'm not sure. I mean, if I don't know if anybody else on the call has gone through formal training for being a coach, that would be really interesting to hear. But not for me, no.
Next question, Ashok's asking, what would you say is the cost of mentoring to any company?
To any company? Well, I can't say what the cost is, and I'm more than happy to talk to people about anything like that, but it tends to be on a scale point of view, like how many people you're talking about, how many project managers, what level of coaching, mentoring is required, what's the investment in getting up to speed for the culture and the process of the organization. And then you work out, a cost per head or whatever at that point of view. So it's a difficult one to specifically ask, but that's the process I normally go through. Are we talking about an individual? And it's quite clear. If we're not talking about an individual, are we talking about a team of 20? In which case, how many hours are you wanting as far as coaching and mentoring is concerned? How much time is it going to take me to learn the basics of your organization's culture, process, method, etc.? Introductory calls, and then to work with them over what period of time? I think 6 months is minimum, 12 months is typical, and that all of that obviously affects the price. So I can't be specific, but I'm always available to give quotes.
Rachel's asking, you mentioned the growth model. Do you have any recommendations for tools that work well in the project environment?
No, I mean the growth model, which you can just look up. I mean, it's very freely open. It's all about it's the kind of it's about setting your goals. It's about understanding the reality of where you are and looking at kind of what the outcomes can be and what the opportunities are and what is going to be truly workable for you. So you can easily reference stuff out there. Tools, no. I mean, for me, it tends to be a personal relationship, a kind of the one-to-one is this is the process we're going to go through. Now, where do you want to focus, and how do we uncover where you are right now, and take it through that route? It's very, it's formalized in the sense it's a repeatable periodic delivery of service, if you like, but it's very relaxed in the kind of format. Some weeks it might be really, come on, I set you a challenge. I want you to present back to me what you've done, what your thoughts are, etc. And other weeks it can be a very open conversation. Let's just chat. Let's just talk. And again, sometimes with Bina, for example, it's almost been like, well, we're just meeting in a cafe, having a coffee, and having a good chat. There is always a prep work that is done beforehand. That I'm looking to where we go in the conversation. But tools, no, I don't tend to use tools.
Kieran's asking, you said at the beginning that your coaching skills developed as you grew in the role. Mm-hmm. How do you come back from a bad coaching experience where you've made mistakes and have had to rebuild the trust?
Oh gosh, I don't know. That's a really difficult one because I haven't experienced it. I think it's summarised in the question. You kind of have to step back. And I go back to the point. I think you need to test the relationship, make sure you're comfortable with that person. That's why I always do a quite an in-depth introductory call with people to learn, etc. We get to know each other. We get to know our styles, our mannerisms, our thoughts, the way we'd like to work. That needs to be very, very clear, and then it becomes a kind of a rolling commitment from that point forward. But if you have a very bad experience, I'm sorry for that. That's not pleasant. But I think stepping back and accepting that one didn't work and finding someone else and do it in gentle steps, I think is probably the right way to gradually rebuild your trust. Again, I think, when it comes to finding a coach, do you have recommendations out there? Have you got people who work with coaches? Do you know people who are coaches who you like their style, and a bit like what Bina did, really? I think that's all part of the preparation work. And now, if you work for an organisation and they just allocate you a coach, then that's slightly different. But I think in that case, you have to be very open to giving feedback and saying this isn't working. this, for whatever reason, your style it doesn't gel with me. I'm not getting value from this, and asking to be reallocated. Tough one though. I'm sorry it was a negative experience.
Thanks, Peter. Matt's asked, what has been your biggest challenge as a coach?
My biggest challenge, generally, it's all been good. I mean, I had one, and the person I was coaching was just too busy to be coached. I think was my biggest challenge. It was like how to get through. It's a classic of, well, you need help to get better, but you're buried in work. And that was a very frustrating series of sessions for a while. And in the end, what we agreed was we took a break. The individual in this case had felt that the priority was just almost to survive in their work environment, and so we took a 3-month break and we reconvened and moved into what I would say were more useful and valuable coaching sessions. Because prior to that, there was just a lot of cancellations, not making the whole hour, not having had time to do the prep work, or all of that, and clearly there was no value given. So I think that was probably my most difficult one.
Yeah. There's the next one is Kieran's just confirmed that he says he hasn't had a bad experience, luckily, but he was just nervous that one might happen. So that's why he was asking that question, which is good.
Yeah. As I said, recommendations from other people, understanding the person, alignment of if you like, thoughts, culture, all that kind of thing. It really does help. Yeah. And it doesn't mean you always have sometimes coaches can be quite challenging. I mean, it's part of my job is to go, hang on, why are you doing this? Can you justify it? So it's not like you don't have a bit of a tough ride very occasionally, in a nice way, in a constructive way. But no, it should be a good experience overall.
Yeah. And there's sorry, Peter, I just lost that.
Okay, I think we've got time for one more.
Yeah. Let me see. How much experience? David asks, how much experience do you need before considering being a coach, and can you coach and PM?
I think you can do both. As I said, I used in my past, I've used the more senior project managers to provide coaching to their peers. So yes, you can do that. It's all about a balance of time of your organisation allowing for it. Absolutely. I think you can coach when you feel you've got the right level of experience. I mean, you need to be on top of your job, on top of your career, and had some experience. Absolutely. And I don't think you can do it too early. It's a hard one to judge. I mean, I can't say you need 6.5 years experience. That doesn't work. But I think it's, people know in their own personal sort of nature how ready they are, I believe, and test it out.
Okay. How many people do you think you can mentor or coach in one go? And would it be too much to have 3?
At the same time? Yeah. I mean, for me, coaching is a one-to-one to start with. How many can you do at any given time? I never take on more than 3 people actually in a year, so I do limit it. If I'm doing kind of mentoring sessions for organisations, that's slightly different. But I think you've got to kind of balance it out. But that's my work balance approach. I'm going to do many other things. If you're a full-time coach, which I'm not, then you can certainly do more. But it's a matter of having the time to individually think about each person, prepare for the sessions, run the sessions, follow-ups, etc. So I think it really does depend on what else you do.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Peter. I'm going to ask Charlotte to finish off now and close.
Okay.
Yeah, so that brings us to the end of a very interesting session. I'd like to thank Peter and Bina on behalf of APM and APM Scotland branch for his thought-provoking presentation. I'm sure we can all see ways in which coaching could benefit ourselves and the project management profession. I'd also like to thank Rob Allen and his team from HQ for running the session. And just a quick mention that if anyone's interested in volunteering, we're always looking for new ideas and new people in the APM Scotland committee. So if you want to get in touch, you can do that through the APM website or LinkedIn. And finally, I'd just like to say thank you for attending today, and I hope you've all taken away some interesting thoughts on coaching through Peter's presentation. Thank you.
Okay, bye all.